Okay, thank you. Yes, Bridge,
Yes. Yes, sir.
we can begin. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this post-policy press conference, second for the financial year 2026-27. We have with us Governor, Reserve Bank of India, Shri Sanjay Malhotra, along with Deputy Governors, Shri Swaminathan J, Dr. Poonam Gupta, Shri Shirish Chandra Murmu, and for the first time, Shri Rohit Jain. We also have with us Executive Directors, Dr. Ajit Ratnakar Joshi, Shri Sanjay Kumar Hansta, and Shri Indranil Bhattacharya. I also welcome my other colleagues from the Reserve Bank. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping announcements. Sir, there are 25 participants from the media. I request the media participants to please stick to one question. I'm repeating, please stick to one question so that everyone gets a chance. In case time permits, we can take some more questions. I also request everyone to please switch on the mic while speaking so that those watching the live telecast are able to hear clearly. And once you are finished speaking, please switch off the mic. So with your permission, I will now call out the names.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Thank you, sir. I will request Ms. Lata Venkatesh from CNBC TV 18 to please ask the first question. Lata, please.
Thank you, Bridge. Thank you, Governor and DGs. Well, a bazooka for policy, sir. The market is pouring its congratulations. I wanted to know if you can give us some more details on the ECB and FCNR scheme, especially FCNR. Last time it was excused from CRR and SLR. And banks were allowed to give loans and, get their customers to raise FCNR. So it was not just their money, even leveraged was allowed. Can you just elaborate, because that will give an idea of how much they can expect and
The details.
And anyway, what is an idea of the flows? Sorry, what kind of flows? Sorry, it's a sales call. What kind of flows are you all expecting with everything, ECB, FCNR, and the other steps that you'll have announced, NRI, etc.? Thank you, sir.
The details we will come out, shortly. We are still, working out the details, but broadly, the contours were already mentioned. In terms of CRR and SLR, that dispensation will certainly be given. Other than that, I don't think there is any change, in the regulatory dispensation. So that whatever is, whatever is the existing dispensation regulation with regard to that, there is no special dispensation for that. In terms of the quantum, we are hopeful of reasonable and good. We are not targeting any particular amount, but we do expect healthy flows, both from ECB and other various measures have been announced today. So as a result of all these measures, we expect healthy flows, not only in this period of 3 to 4 months that we have given short window for ECBs and FC and RB deposits, but there have been other measures for equity as well as government bonds. So all put together, we are quite, and there were other measures, which were taken even earlier, whether it is in terms of the ECB, liberalized ECB scheme that we brought in, and the measures that I mentioned in my monetary policy statement with regard to government initiatives in terms of the trade agreements, etc. All those put together, we are quite confident of very healthy, a much better BOP this year as compared to what it would have been otherwise.
Thank you, sir. We'll take some more questions from our left side before we come to the right side. I now request Manojit Saha from Business Standard to ask his question. Manojit, please.
Thank you, sir. Now, can we assume that for the time being, since you have not mentioned that when the RBI expects inflation to come back to 4%, can we expect that RBI now put that 4% target in abeyance for the time being and more focused on the range like we did in COVID times? Because from the speech, I think it's evident that you're more concerned with growth rather than inflation. So is the 4% target is kept in abeyance for the time being?
No, the target is not in abeyance at all. It's a target which is sacrosanct for us. It's a target which the government has given to us. It was reviewed. It remains 4%. And that is what our endeavor is. But keep in mind that this target, it is to be met, over a period. It's a medium-term kind of a target. And it is not advisable to take action for each and every small or large, especially small, deviations from the target, because that can have consequences which can be disproportionate for growth. So our target remains the same. It is 4%. It is to be met over a period of time. And as mentioned, we will be data dependent. We have to watch and see as to whether this shock supply, because it's a supply shock, whether its effect is going to persist or whether it is going to wane away. So we are watching for that. And I think the details are already there, in my monetary policy statement. We'll be very watchful if inflation is getting generalized, building into expectations, and accordingly, take action.
The concern is the real rate is now very, very small or even negative. So,
see, as I mentioned to you, we have to look at it over a little longer period. It's not possible, nor is it desirable. It's neither possible nor is it advisable to have it pegged, in a very small range. And that's why we have this range. The range of 2 to 6% is primarily for this purpose, that while the endeavor, the focus, the target is 4%, but there can be fluctuations around that. And we don't, if they are really fluctuations, then, we don't, and it's the effect and the inflation is coming down on its own, then we don't apply, monetary policy tools which will have other adverse consequences.
thank you.
I will, in interest of everyone's time, let's restrict ourselves to one question at a time. And then if there is time and the question has not been asked by anyone else, then we come back. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I now request Anup Roy from Bloomberg to ask his question. Anup, please.
Thank you, sir. Sir, in a recent interview, you have said that rupee is undervalued. So what is, as per your estimate, the fair value?
Which interview are you talking about?
In Mint interview, you have said rupee is perhaps undervalued. So
I have never said that rupee is undervalued. I think what you are referring to is the fact that I mentioned that, it may be, I think if I recall correctly, I said something to the effect that it is reasonable to think that it may not be, overvalued. And some people, of course, do say that it is, when they look at REIR, etc., then they do say that it is undervalued. So this is what I said. I never said that it is undervalued, but by some accounts, yes, it is undervalued.
so what could be the fair value if you have done any?
See, we don't have, as mentioned, our policy has been consistent. This question keeps coming up again and again, and we keep giving out the same answer. I don't have anything more to add than what I said in my monetary policy statement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I now request Hamsini Karthik from Money Control to ask her question. Hamsini, please.
Thank you, Pritha. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. My question is on deposit and lending rates. Earlier in your policies, you've said that at RBI, you would endeavor to maintain rates at a certain level, which would be slightly low, you're not in a rush to increase rates. Would you continue to maintain that stand even today, given where geopolitical situations are and what other economies are doing with the monetary policy tools? And as an allied, I would also want to draw your attention to deposit rates. In your speech, you mentioned that there is a certain amount of hardening of lending and deposit rates as well. We recently had a very large private sector bank say that they had to resort to very competitive structuring of deposits to ensure that they're able to combat this excessive competition for deposit. Is that a practice at RBI that you would allow, that you're okay with? And given that deposit rates have continued to be very elevated, I mean, it has been a pressure to mobilize deposits. I think we're in the third year of that. Where do you see some sort of a relief coming for banks?
See, deposit, as far as deposit rates are concerned, there is no regulation on that. So I'm not understanding as to the intent of your question.
I'd primarily like to understand, sir, is there a room based on the macro environment today where do you foresee low interest rates continuing to prevail in the country for a while? And what would be the allied impact of that on deposits?
Yeah, so see, that's I mean, that's futuristic. We will be data dependent, and we'll see, how the growth inflation dynamics plays out, as I've already mentioned. I think on rates, policy rates going forward, I'll not be able to give you more guidance than what was given in the statement, and what I mentioned when I answered one of the previous questions.
Regarding competition for deposits, or any view that you have?
It's competition, as far as, I mean, competition is healthy. Competition is good, as far as long as it is transparent, as long as it is fair. Competition is good, and that should continue.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Ekta Suri from Z Business to ask a question. Ekta, please.
गुड आफ्टरनून ऑल सर, बहुत संक्षेप में सवाल पूछूंगी ताकि छोटे आंसर्स में ही कम समय में हो जाए ज़्यादा चीज़ें. सर, ये पूछना चाहूँगी कि एनआरआई डिपॉजिट्स को लेकर आरबीआई का कोई टारगेट है? और यहाँ पर हम क्योंकि बात कर रहे हैं कि हमारा फॉरेक्स रिजर्व रहे, तो मोदी जी ने भी अपील की थी कि सोना जो है लोग कम खरीदे. क्या आरबीआई गोल्ड मोनेटाइजेशन स्कीम को और ल्यूक्रेटिव बनाने के बारे में सोच रहा है? एंड जस्ट इफ टाइम अलाउज, वन मोर क्रिस्प
आपने
क्वेश्चन.
दो क्वेश्चन पूछ लिए. तीसरा अगर समय रहा तो पूछिएगा. तो पहले मैंने कहा कि कोई हमारा इसके लिए लक्ष्य हमने कोई निर्धारित नहीं किया है, लेकिन हमें आशा है कि काफ़ी स्वस्थ और अधिक मात्रा में हमारे को फ्लोज इसमें जो विभिन्न हमने जो मेजर्स जो हमने आज अनाउंस किए हैं उसकी वजह से आने चाहिए. दूसरा, आपका जो गोल्ड मोनेटाइजेशन के बारे में अभी कोई प्रस्ताव जो है उसके बारे में विचाराधीन नहीं है.
थैंक यू सर.
धन्यवाद सर. I'll now request Anurag Shah from ET Now Swadesh to ask his question. Anurag, please.
थैंक यू सर. सर, आम लोगों से जुड़ा हुआ एक सवाल समझना चाहूँगा सर, क्योंकि सर लोगों का आरबीआई पे भरोसा है और आप सही आंकलन कर सकते हैं. तो मौजूदा आर्थिक स्थिति को आरबीआई किस तरह से देखता है, कितनी चुनौतीपूर्ण है, और आरबीआई के लिए सर अब चिंता आगे चल के क्या रहेगी, ग्रोथ की रहेगी या महंगाई की रहेगी? क्योंकि सर ग्रोथ के आंकलन में आपने आज कहा कि बर्डन शेयरिंग जो होगी आगे चल के वो भी काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण होगी, वो भी ग्रोथ को तय करेगी. तो सर उसे कैसे देखते हैं? और सर आजकल भारत के अंदर काफ़ी चर्चा चल रही है डॉलर के मुकाबले रुपए के स्तर को लेके. बुद्धिजीवी लोग, अर्थशास्त्री लोग, हर कोई अपनी राय दे रहा है. तो सर आरबीआई उसको कैसे देख रहा है? क्या ये एक बस प्रक्रिया का हिस्सा है? अगर निकट भविष्य में वो 3 डिजिट का आंकड़ा भी होता है तो दैट्स जस्ट अ नंबर, नथिंग मोर.
नहीं, देखिए, जो हमारी आर्थिक स्थिति है, जैसा कि हमने अपने वक्तव्य में भी कहा है, तो वो काफ़ी सुदृढ़ है, बहुत सक्षम है, स्वस्थ है. ये जो एक ग्लोबल शॉक है वो उसमें भारत अकेला नहीं है। सभी देश जो है इससे इम्पैक्टेड हैं। जहाँ तक भारत की स्थिति है, हम तुलनात्मक दृष्टि से हम लोग न केवल अन्य देशों से तुलना की जाए, बल्कि पूर्व के इस प्रकार के जो शॉक्स हमारे सामने आए हैं, दोनों दृष्टि से हम लोग आज काफ़ी बेहतर स्थिति में हैं। चाहे वो आर्थिक हमारी वृद्धि हो 6.5% से ऊपर, वो बहुत कम देशों की है, किसी की भी नहीं है। जो मेजर जो देश हैं, बड़े देश हैं, किसी के भी नहीं है। और जहाँ तक मुद्रास्फीति की आपने बात करी, तो मुद्रास्फीति निश्चित रूप से जो है इससे बढ़ेगी, क्योंकि अगर ऑयल के प्राइसेस बढ़े हैं तो वो सब जगह पे बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन यही उम्मीद कर सकते हैं कि ये ज़्यादा लंबे समय तक नहीं रहे। काफ़ी अनिश्चितता है, तो उसके बाद में हमारे को मालूम चलेगा। लेकिन जो हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था की स्थिति है वो काफ़ी सुदृढ़ है, वृद्धि अच्छी है, हमारे बैंक्स वो सक्षम है, सुदृढ़ हैं, हमारा जो कॉरपोरेट जगत है उसके पास में भी उनकी जो बैलेंस शीट्स हैं वो भी बहुत स्वस्थ हैं। बाहरी जो स्थिति है, आपने रुपए के बारे में बात की, तो वो भी हमारे जो फॉरेक्स रिजर्व्स हैं वो हमारे पास में पर्याप्त मात्रा में है, और 11 माह का जो हमारा आयात, गुड्स का जो आयात है, उसको कवर करने के लिए पर्याप्त है। कुल मिलाकर के हम काफ़ी बहुत अच्छी स्थिति में हैं, और हम काफ़ी विश्वस्त हैं कि इस स्थिति से हम लोग अच्छी तरह से हम न केवल निपटेंगे, बल्कि इस स्थिति को एक अपने लिए एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मानते हुए और अधिक हम अपने आप को सक्षम और सुदृढ़ बनाएंगे, ताकि इस प्रकार की जो क्राइसिस या शॉक्स आते हैं उनको हम बेहतर और अधिक बेहतर तरीके से निपट सकें।
धन्यवाद सर. Sir, we'll now take a few questions from the right.
Yes.
I'll request Sangeeta Mehta from Economic Times to ask a question. Sangeeta, please.
Thank you. Sir, given that influx of inflows that might happen because of the measures announced, what kind of system level liquidity you think would be appropriate in the current scenario? And do you expect banks to pass on the benefits of hedging costs to the customers respective?
Yes, I do expect them to pass on some of the benefits of hedging, and that will result in good flows. Liquidity, as I've mentioned, we will provide the appropriate amount of liquidity so that credit in the system, not only bank credit but other bonds, etc., also can be provided to meet the needs of the economy. There's no level that we generally target. You have seen we gave about 2.6 lakh crore of liquidity in the last 2 months since we have met, and we'll continue to provide appropriate liquidity as is needed.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Jaspreet Kalra from Thomson Reuters to ask a question. Jaspreet, please.
Thank you, sir. So you've announced measures aimed at garnering capital inflows today, via FCNR, ECB, etc. Are you also considering measures to slow down outflows, perhaps through restrictions on liberalized remittance schemes, overseas debt investments? Is that something under consideration? And because some of my peers took the liberty, I hope you'll allow me. You speak a lot about inflation expectations. In the recent data that we've seen in RBI surveys, they've started to drift up. How do you sort of closely track that? Are there supplementary tools that you're looking to maybe measure inflation expectations in more real time to be able to stay ahead of that curve? Thank you.
See, as and when, first of all, there is no such measure right now under consideration to restrict any kind of capital flows, outflows. On your second question, which is related to inflation expectations, we do our household surveys, so that is the primary source through which we we get the data. And other than inflation expectations, the prices, when they are passed on, that can also have some element of expectations built into it, apart from, the service that we do. So we monitor those very closely, and we'll continue to do that and
Passed on
take
from the
action.
companies to the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Piyush Shukla from NDTV Profit to ask his question. Piyush, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Governor, DGs. Thanks, Blitzer. Sir, we understand the updated list of NBFCs is yet to come out. You have issued categorization draft circular. There are views on, floating around on one CIC which has applied for deregistration as well. When can we expect the upper, the next upper layer list to come out? And if you could allow me to ask, because this is the largest private bank of country, we have seen a lot of developments happening with regard to how its governance is being played out. Is the regulator concerned in any manner on this particular aspect? Thank you.
See, we don't, you are aware, we don't, answer any entity or bank specific questions. We are more, we are looking at, system level things. So that's, on your second part of the question. Your first part
Updated
is,
layer of.
see, the list is there already, right? So it continues till the time, we have a new list.
When will we have it? It was supposed it gets updated on a yearly basis. That's why I'm asking.
So we'll do it shortly.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Ankur Mishra from ET Now to ask his question. Ankur, please.
Thank you, Britt, sir, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, Governor. You mentioned during the monetary policy statement that the crude oil prices has been more than the assumptions which were there in the last monetary policy. I want to understand what is the assumption now. Apart from that, you also mentioned about the exchange rate policy, where you are saying about speculative pressures and how Reserve Bank of India responds to that. In the past, you have taken few measures regarding the same. Are there more measures which are expected from Reserve Bank of India?
No, there are no specific measures, but as I have mentioned, in case they are required, especially to curb speculative kind of a behavior, then we will take them in case they are required. Assumption for crude is $95 to a barrel, so it's changed, from our previous ones and previous assumption, and that is one of the reasons, why inflation is higher. Projected inflation is higher.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Shayan Ghosh from Mint to ask his question. Shayan, please.
Governor, on the issue of deposits, generally, I mean, what has happened with the bank, they also justified it as an industry practice. My question is, as an industry,
practice?
The practice of giving differential interest rates and masking it probably.
No, our policy, I mean, we do allow differential interest rates.
Right.
So sorry, please complete your question.
On a systemic level, I was asking because they justified it saying that it's an industry practice. Is RBI okay with an industry practice like that? Where you give differential interest rate but route it through something else?
I think you are referring to some individual specific instance, bank, which we don't comment on. However, as I have mentioned, I think perhaps now the earlier question, I think they are too connected, that they are connected. So, we have a very consistent and a very clear policy for deposits as to when they can have differential rates. I think for certain categories of people like, senior citizens, depending on tenor, and things like that, you can have differential rates. I'll ask one of my colleagues, to tell you on what basis you can have differential rates. But they have to be transparent at the same time. You have to display them to everyone clearly. And any differential rate beyond that is certainly, if someone is giving, is certainly not acceptable.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll now request K. Ramkumar from Hindu Business Line to ask his question. Ramkumar, please.
Why is this concessional swap facility for raising ECBs restricted only to public sector undertakings? Why not extend it to even the private sector actually? Yeah.
See, the public sector the public sector entities are a special category, and they are more, in areas where we feel the needs where the needs, of the economy are more, and the benefits are also, passed on to the general public because they are catering more, to public utilities, infrastructure. So the benefits go to a much larger section of society when we give it to the public sector undertaking. If you give it to private, then the benefits are not as widely dispersed as they are when we give such kind of a benefit to the PSUs.
Thank you, sir. I now request Mayur Shetty from Times of India to ask his question. Mayur, please.
Thank you, sir. Governor, you announced a whole lot of measures to attract fixed income inflows. Do you see a role for interest rates here? In the past, whenever such measures were taken, there were higher rates offered to attract capital. Or do you expect banks to offer better returns under these schemes?
Yes, obviously, because I think one of you asked, this will enable banks to increase the deposit rates for the non-resident and the OCI depositors.
This is despite the reduced interest rate differential between India and
Yes.
Thank you, sir. We now take the remaining questions from the left side. I'll request Falakna Syed from Deccan Chronicle to ask a question. Falakna, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. Thank you for the opportunity. Sir, there's a 50 basis points upward revision in baseline CPI inflation forecast with upside risk. So this strengthens the case for a rate hike in the next meeting. And also, if you look at the bond market, they are factoring 3 rate hikes. The yields are now around 7%, 10-year benchmark yields.
So what's your question?
So the question is that it's strengthening the 50 basis revision in with upside risk in CPI. It's strengthening a case for a rate hike in the next meeting.
In the next meeting or later, whether it strengthens the case or not, I don't know. But obviously, I mean, it's adverse. It's more adverse, than it was previously. Certainly, yes. Whether it strengthens the case will depend on many other things, as already mentioned. We'll have to see whether it is actually getting generalized. It's not, as I mentioned, again and again. It's not, just one. If it is a one-time increase, then you look through. But if it is getting generalized, it is getting persistent, it is getting into expectations, then is the time, to act. So for that, we have to wait and we have to watch.
Thank you, sir. I now request Krishna Kaushik from Financial Times to ask his question. Krishna, please.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. So I wanted to understand, you mentioned that there's a good environment for private capital investments to grow. But have you seen private capital expenditure growing because there has been a bit of a frustration on the government side on that as well. The private entities are not investing enough. Along with that, why do FDI inflows remain negative? You mentioned that in the first 3 months or the first 2 months till now, basically, it's been about $14 billion that has outflown. So why are these two things? Can you just comment on that?
See, investments are healthy. If you look at data, the data, for the second advanced estimates for last year, and even if you look at some of the high frequency indicators in terms of capital goods imports, production, H1 numbers of fixed asset growth, H1 was very good. It was in 2 digits. H2 has moderated, but still it's high single digits. So So if you look at all these indicators, it's decent. Of course, there is always scope for more. Inflows also have been FDI. I think we gave you the numbers. It's continuing. Gross FDI has been. Madam, would you like to add on the remittances and on the inflows as to how the situation looks like?
So I can add to the overall situation of capital flows as well as capital investment in the country. As Sir said, private capital formation numbers actually have been very healthy. Investment to GDP ratio has been turning upwards. So those numbers remain healthy. More can certainly happen. If we look at the BOP side, gross FDI flows were $95 billion in 25-26. Can be much more this year, for all we know. Certainly top 100 billion can go up to, 110, 120, if not more. And it's a secular increase, which means it's not a story that we can pin down to only 1 year. There are years coming which will see even healthier inflows of gross FDI. And with the measures that have been announced, we are looking at and projecting a very healthy BOP going forward.
The net still remains negative, right? FDI.
So we do not have projections for this year, and that remains to be seen on how things pan out. Net FDI is also a combination of, globally how things are. And those are, things that get settled over a period of time. But one can talk more confidently today about the gross FDI numbers, which are looking very healthy.
Net FDI was also positive. It was not negative, 6.7 or so last year. And April numbers, gross FDI is 15 billion and net is also about 7 or 8 billion, if I remember correctly. That's also positive. So 15 billion in 1 month is a very high number. Right? We don't have the monthly figures. A lot of it was to do with the financial sector. So we are confident, as DG also mentioned.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, madam. I now request Lalatendu Mishra from the Hindu to ask his question. Lalatendu, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. Last month, the Prime Minister urged the people of India to do a lot of things, like not to go on foreign travel. He said, postpone buying gold, then do work from home, also do carpooling and reduce fuel consumption. And now you told, to Anurag's question, things are better. Has the thing changed since then, and what could be the reason for him to tell all these things? Thank you, sir.
You have to ask him, and you have to ask yourself as to what the reason therefore is. I think it's important for us, all of us, to be, to be prudent, to be judicious, to not be wasteful. That's the message I think that he gave, and it should be taken in that spirit.
Thank you, sir. I now request Nachiket Kelkar from Business Today to ask his question. Nachiket, please.
Thank you, Governor. Seemingly there is enough cash in circulation, but we also keep hearing that ATMs are running short of cash, they are running dry. Is RBI looking at it? What are the issues there? Are you worried about it, or something needs to be done there?
No, see, we have a plan. Every year we build a plan of what the requirement of currency is, and that is provided to the banks as and when it is required. The ATM part I have not looked into, but certainly, we will, if there is a shortage, we will certainly, ensure that the shortage is met with. We have sufficient currency to provide and fill and refill the ATMs and the bank branches.
Thank you, sir. I now request Manish Suvarna from PTI to ask his question. Manish,
thank
please.
you, sir. Good afternoon, sir. So you mentioned that you are expecting good amount of flows because of the measures you have announced today. So how much incremental flows can we expect? And secondly, sir, I just want to understand, you explicitly flagged implication for the rural demand from projected monsoon deficiency. So do you see a risk of weaker rural consumption spilling over to the private consumption growth?
Number I already mentioned, we don't have a specific number, but obviously it's all put together, it will be very healthy. Answer to your second question, rural demand, well, yes. Private consumption, well, yes. Some impact will be there.
Thank you, sir. I now request Akash Mandal from Indian Express to ask his question. Akash, please.
Good afternoon, Governor, Deputy Governors. The RBI has intervened heavily in the forwards market in the past year or so, with the RBI also bearing the full hedging cost of the new 3 to 5 year FC and RBI deposits, in addition to the concessional Forex swap window for the ECBs of PSUs. Does the RBI expect some Forex pressure going ahead, and how does the central bank expect to mitigate or manage this risk in the going forward?
No, we don't expect, but we are always prepared. As mentioned, we have sufficient reserves, and we have the buffers, and we will do, whatever is required in order to ensure that we have good flows and we are able to maintain an orderly movement of the rupee. These are the primary, areas that we will focus on.
Thank you, sir. We'll now take the remaining questions from the right side. I'll request Shama Mishra from Doordarshan to ask her question. Shama, please.
Namaskar, sir. Sir, आपके statement में there was one word which was continuously coming, that is uncertainty. Which is that one risk that you're watching very closely right now? And one more thing, gold reserves or gold holdings is constant. So is it a policy to not trade in gold?
No, we don't. There was some news, that we have sold gold or something. So there is no such sale. There's only a marginal increase in our gold holdings. Uncertainties on various accounts. It's on account of the conflict, the duration of the conflict, the time it will take for restoration of supplies. There is uncertainty about the monsoon, the El Nino. So there are various uncertainties which have implications for both inflation and for growth. So we'll be watching, all these uncertainties as to how they fold out and what impact they have.
So any one risk that you are really worried about?
No, the primary, the major risk today is concern or uncertainty is how long, these supply disruptions continue and what impact they have on prices. And availability is, as of now, not so much of a concern. It's more, as of now, it is price. So that is what we are looking for as to how long, that remains. That I think is number one. After that, will be the monsoons and the El Nino and other things.
Sir, may I interrupt? No, this confusion on gold came because weekly bulletins show a reduction.
Really?
Yeah, and I think you're mark to market. So if you can
in
tell
tons,
us.
Okay.
No, that is in dollars.
That's in
that
dollars.
Is in dollars.
Yeah.
So it must be a price revaluation.
Right.
Maybe you all can clarify, is it done every month? Is it done alternate Fridays? Or I don't know what. Then this confusion or
no, whenever we give out the numbers, then obviously, the value would be the same frequency, I think we do it weekly.
Yeah, the amount is given weekly. It is in the weekly supplement.
Yeah, we give the weekly. So the price will also be, weekly changed. It will be revalued weekly. I mean, it cannot be that you give the value weekly and the price is adjusted in a different, I mean, that's my understanding. And I suppose that's how it should be.
But is there stigma attached to selling bonds? like there's nationalistic pride or the value of the rupee.
Let's complete, and then we'll come back. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Maintain that order. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Shipra Petkar from Financial Express to ask the question. Shipra, please.
Yes, thank you, Pritza. Good afternoon, Governor. My question is on the transmission of rates. Now, despite cumulative policy easing, transmission across segments in the financial system remain uneven. Even in the annual report, there was data which said that the for FY 25-26, Agri saw transmission of a decline of 49 basis, whereas MSME saw a decline of around 85 basis points. Now, is the RBI satisfied with the pace of transmission, and are there any areas where further improvement is needed?
The credit growth, I mean, the proof of pudding is in eating it. I think credit growth has been very robust. 16% plus is the credit growth. Banking, total put together 15% plus. So it's satisfactory. Given the whole macroeconomic situation the way it is, I think it is quite satisfactory, and we'll continue to work on further improving it wherever we find there is scope.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Aryan Khanna from Informis Media to ask his question. Aryan, please.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just one clarification on the FX measures. On both the ECB concession window as well as the FCNRB measure, will you allow all applicants who apply for that window, for those windows until September 30th, or is there a cap that you have in mind? So that's just one clarification I would like. And the question is that looking at the inflation forecast going ahead in FY27, did the MPC discuss a rate hike? Because these measures on capital inflows are external to the MPC. So did the MPC discuss a rate hike possibly in this meeting, either because of inflation or because of the currency? Thank you.
So cap, I think you're talking about in terms of value, right?
Right.
Because the period is already there. No, so as I have said, there is no target that we have set for ourselves and we meet that target and we close that window. No, that's not the case. As to whether the monetary policy discussed whether to hike rate or not, that's the whole purpose of the meeting. Whether to hike, whether to retain, or whether to reduce, that's the purpose of the meeting. So certainly all possibilities are discussed, and after that a decision is taken.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Saurav Mukherjee from ANI to ask his question. Saurav, please.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, sir. My question to you is, you recently warned or cautioned against the excessive speculation in the rupee. Was the RBI message aimed at discouraging short sellers from building aggressive one-way bets against the currency, and your take on the government issued ordinance to accept FIIs from capital gains tax on G6? What impact it may have on the Indian economy?
Well, it will have on the Indian
economy.
It's a positive move, as mentioned earlier. It's a positive move. It will further strengthen our balance of payments, and so it's a welcome move.
And on the rupee speculation, sir.
I don't have anything more to add. See, if there is any speculation, excessive speculation, speculation which leads to excessive volatility, let me put it like that, any disorderly movement that we see, it's then that we intervene and we take appropriate macro prudential regulatory measures, and we'll be watchful, we'll be vigilant, and we'll take as measures as may be necessary.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Jeevan Bhavasar from Akashvani to ask his question. Jeevan, please.
नमस्कार सर, मार्केट में ये चर्चा चल रही है कि आरबीआई कुछ प्लास्टिक के नोट्स टेम्पररी बेसिस या टेस्टिंग बेसिस पे लॉन्च करने वाला है। इन चर्चाओं में कितना तथ्य है? और मेरा दूसरा सवाल ये था कि जो करंटली जो करेंसी नोट्स है, तो बहुत सारे एटीएम्स और बैंक ब्रांचेस में उसका क्रंच चल रहा है बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए उसके बारे में बहुत सी कंप्लेंट्स आ रही थी। तो एग्जैक्टली इसमें आरबीआई की तरफ से क्या मेजर्स लिए जा रहे हैं और ये समस्या हमें बार बार क्यों आ रही है?
पॉलीमर नोट की जहाँ तक बात है वो प्रस्ताव विचाराधीन है अभी। जैसे ही कोई इसके ऊपर में निर्णय लिया जाएगा हम आपको बताएंगे। अंडर कंसिडरेशन विचाराधीन है। प्रपोजल इज अंडर कंसिडरेशन, for those, because this has not been asked in English. Proposal is under consideration. So whatever news articles have come, there is some truth in it, but there is no decision. It's only under consideration. We are examining the pros and cons of it and whether it will be worthwhile to do it. It's still at a preliminary stage. It is at a preliminary stage. और जो दूसरा जो आपने कहा कि एटीएम्स में, जैसा मैंने अभी अंग्रेजी में भी मैंने बताया, हमारा पूरा प्रयास रहेगा कि जहाँ पे भी किसी एक दो जितनी भी जगह पे एटीएम्स में अगर कहीं पे करेंसी की कमी है तो वहाँ पे हम करेंसी त्वरित गति से वहाँ पे पहुँचाएंगे।
धन्यवाद सर। For the final question, I'll request Somijit Saha from Nikkei to ask his question. Somijit, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. So we have seen some of our Asian peers like Thailand and Indonesia, who are ahead of us in the sowing cycle, face a little bit of not a little bit, but a fairly good amount of shortage in fertilizers. I just want to understand now that the lower monsoon forecast is pretty much unanimous across private and government forecasters. What is your updated understanding of the fertilizer crisis and its percolation down to food inflation? If you could give us some updated understanding.
My understanding is that we have sufficient fertilizer supplies for the Kharif crop, and in any case, if the monsoon is going to be, we don't know if it is going to be subnormal, then that only reduces, not increases. That's my understanding of fertilizers, because if there is less rainfall, then you can't apply. That's my understanding of the issue. So, but there is sufficient, nevertheless, there is sufficient fertilizer stock with the government.
Thank you, sir. With your permission, sir, we can now conclude this press conference.
Okay. नहीं, वो हो जाएगा। वो हमने जो है वो डील नहीं दी थी, वो हमने समय दिया था क्योंकि समय बहुत कम था उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए, तो इसलिए हमने जो है वो उसकी जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो डेट है उसको लागू करने की जो तिथि है केवल उसको बढ़ाया हमने, और कोई उसमें ढील या छूट नहीं दी। नहीं, कोई टाइम आगे बढ़ने की कोई उसमें गुंजाइश या ज़रूरत नहीं है। Okay, there is no need, and that was we only made the circular, the rules, the date of applicability was extended. It should not be seen as a relief in that sense.
Sir,
yes.
you
Last two.
Okay. Now all these measures are in place. You think there is a case to continue or discontinue the NOP cap?
No, there is no change. Whatever is there is there. There is no proposal to discontinue with what we had announced and with what we have implemented.
So while your overall inflation forecast has been raised by 50 basis points from 4.6 to 5.1, for the second quarter itself, you'll have raised it by 70 basis points. I mean, from 4.4 to 5.1. It is, wouldn't it be unfair to a saver that the real return for a good 12 months is going to be far less than 1%. So should one not expect an earlier hike because of that, from the point of view of the saver?
You've asked the same question in a different form. No, the reason you have given is different. Others are saying the inflation is inching up. You have said, that the depositors' interest may get compromised, for a longer period. So let's wait, let's watch, let's see, how the data comes, and we will take a decision, policy by policy.
Governor, so just one question on Mythos.
Last one, huh? This is really the last one.
on Mythos, the Anthropic has given access to a couple of corporates globally. In India also, there are a few companies which have got. Have any of the banks, got the access to the new cloud model, or how are you working around, assessing this whole issue?
I'll request my DG, he looks after the IT, cyber security. I'll request him if he can throw more light on it. To my best of my knowledge, it has not yet been given. There is talks, there are discussions on cloud and other, which, hopefully we will get. But what is the preparedness? I will request whether there is, this Mythos, LLM or software or not. What is our preparedness? Nevertheless, we keep, beefing up. I'll request my DG to, let you know of some of the measures that we are taking to be able to meet this challenge.
Absolutely. Just to supplement on that, this is an item that has been engaging our attention both at the government level and at the financial sector inter-regulatory forum level. And as you mentioned, India has been included as one of the countries that will be part of this project, with select corporates and financial entities having access to the project, but the details of which are still fully awaited. And once this opportunity opens up, how exactly to make use of it in consultation with government and with other regulators, we will take further steps. But in the meantime, in terms of getting the preparedness for the regulated entities, we have issued the required advisories. We remain fully prepared in terms of handling cybersecurity threats of this nature as well as the conventional nature. And we will keep the market informed once we have full details and as to how we plan to handle this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
much. Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the end of this press conference. I'd like to thank the governor and our deputy governors for patiently answering all the questions and making this interaction engaging interaction. I thank all members of the media for the wish you all a good day. Thank you.